This group of girls has actually been just my overall most well-rounded group of girls, academically and talent-wise as well. And I think they all just came to practice every time ready to go, ready to work hard, try new skills. I had a lot of girls push themselves to do skills that they hadn't done previously. And so from that, just the desire to win really kicked in the second half of the year for us, and we were able to pull out a state win and then a nationals win, which was amazing.
I think it depends on who you ask. Like if you ask the community or like our administration, they would say our main role is to support the community and to represent our school. However, if you ask the students at the school or like the athletes that we go and support, it would be more to encourage them and to encourage the crowd and engage in cheers. But then if you ask us, I think our role is more like personally to us, not only supporting and encouraging others, it's also being an athlete as well. We have practices almost every day. We have a period during the school day where we have cheer, and then we also have morning practices on the days that we don't have cheer a lot of the time. So I don't think people realize how much practice time we put in. So I think that's one of the things we sacrifice the most is our time and time to do whatever we want versus what we are supposed to be doing, because not only at practices, we also have to cheer at games. And then when we aren't cheering at games, we're also expected to maintain good grades. So if we're not at practice or not at games, we're most likely doing homework. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we sacrifice is our time.
So my name is Maisie Reed, and I'm one of the junior captains. And as a junior captain, you kind of don't have as big of a role as like the seniors and stuff, but you mostly call cheers at like the JV football games, and then we cheer at like girls basketball. I feel like at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of girls, like especially the sophomores that come in, they like don't know any of like the juniors and seniors. And like as a junior, you've been with the seniors for a year previous. So I feel like I had a lot of like good bonds with the seniors, but over the year, just like we spend a lot of time with each other in practice, and then we also have like team parties and just like team bonding things outside of that. So I feel like just doing all of those things, you kind of get to know the girls more on like a personal level, and you get to know them like in cheer and also outside of cheer. So it kind of helps you just have a like greater appreciation for them as a person, but also as them like when you're in practice. And I feel like just over the years, like you spend more time with them, then you get closer and develop a greater bond.
Our head coach is Taisha Money, and then we have Kenna and Addie right under her. And I absolutely love them. They make it a point to like not just be involved in just cheer aspect wise. They want to know like what's going on in your life, and they help you with grades and making sure you're on top of everything. We have to have a 3.0 or higher to stay on the team, and that happens every term. So if you don't make that, then you're possibly kicked off the team. And then another thing that she really stresses are the 3 R's: responsibility, reputation, and being respectful. So those 3 are kind of like what we try to make our team all around. And so we try to keep up a good reputation with everyone by being nice. And we also have to think about like what we put out online and being very specific on what we do with that, and making sure we're putting out positive comments rather than negative ones. We don't want to be associated with negative things because we're not about that. We love everyone. And then respect, we just make a point to be our best selves to everyone and making sure we uphold that. So,
as captains, we don't really choreograph necessarily, but we will, like if the coaches will choreograph and they'll talk to us about how we feel about the choreography and how we think that the girls are doing, and so we just communicate with them in that way, telling them whether or not we think it's gonna work or if it's not going to, and how the girls feel about it. As a sophomore, obviously, like I loved her, and I've always thought she was a really good coach, but I think as a senior and being co-captain, I've gotten closer with her and had a bigger appreciation for her this year, just because I can see more of what she does behind the scenes, and I just know that she works really hard.
So we perform at almost every home football or basketball game. So we have lots of performances that way. And then we also had 3 other competitions leading up to state. maybe 3 or 4 competitions leading up to state, so we got that extra practice in competing as well. And those competitions didn't go as well as they normally do. Normally in previous years we've won most of our competitions, and this year it wasn't like that. We didn't win all of them, so that was kind of a shock to us, I think, a little bit. And then going into state, I think we worked harder for state than we normally would have if we wouldn't have had those losses that we had at the beginning of the year. And yeah, then we went to state.
There were 3 or 4 competitions before state, and like was mentioned earlier, we never won any of them, which is kind of rough for us as a team, because I know that like girls who were on the team previously, and like myself included, have been kind of just used to like winning, you know, like in Utah. And so that was kind of hard for us as a team. And we also, before state, had quite a few injuries. So I personally got a concussion, was taken out of a comp. Maisie, one of our girls, hyperextended her elbow, was taken out. Another girl broke her foot. So there's just a lot of stuff going on leading up to state. But so state, like we just went in like really fired up. And it's a different scoring type of thing. It's like region and state are scored differently. So we had to put in like new elements and get stuff all ready for the routine. But other than that, it's pretty much just like a regular comp.
I hyperextended my elbow like the very first thing I did in the competition routine, which was doing standing 2 back handsprings. I did it in my very first back handspring. And so then like I ended up competing like the rest of that like competition. Like I just kept going into the rest of the routine even after I'd hurt my elbow. And I think it was more just like, because I couldn't really stop, because then we would have been like out and there was like no other option. So I think it was just a lot of adrenaline and like not knowing what else to do. So then I just competed the rest of the thing. So we had like 3 major injuries, I would say, on like this year. So we had a girl that got a concussion, and then I had my elbow, and then another girl that fractured her foot. And then there's also, of course, just like little injuries that happen like every day. But when you have like a big injury that you're not able to perform in, then your spot has to be replaced, or they have to change like the routine. So for me, with my elbow, I'm a base, and so my spot had to be filled by another, it was actually a sophomore that filled it, and she hadn't like really had any experience with basing before, because she was just a front spot. So that was a lot of pressure for her, and like I know it made other girls nervous, just because like we had a competition the next Saturday, so she didn't have a lot of time to like prepare and like get ready. But just whenever there's an injury, it kind of like you either have to change like formations, like where people are at, because you have to take people out, or you have to put people in like for stunts and stuff. So that can be difficult.
During that time when we were struggling a little bit, I had my captain and co-captain reach out to me and just ask if it would be okay if they met during one of our practice times, just the girls themselves, and were able to, if they could meet and just talk about, you know, getting their act together and kind of what they needed to go pushing forward. And so it was great. I just opened my classroom up for them, and they went in there and they were actually watching videos and listening to inspirational things, and they really took the lead on that, my captain and co-captain, and really just, and I thought that was great, because yes, it's important to be a coach and be able to guide them and lead them in the right direction, but also it's good for the girls to be able to have that experience of stepping up to the plate and being able to get together and really decide for themselves, you know, why are we here and how important is it to us to win, and to do that on their own without me necessarily having to guide them makes the progression for them so much sweeter. And so I really appreciated that, because honestly I felt as a coach I did all that I could, and I wasn't quite sure what else I could do from that point, and they kind of took that under their wing, I guess you could say, and kind of made that decision with the girls to come together. And of course it wasn't just the captain and the co-captain, it was them as a team talking it out with each other and deciding what they could do to make it more successful.
I think a big thing that happens is the time between state and nationals is like our busiest time of the year, because it's basketball, it's wrestling, it's school, like everything is just kind of piling on. And I feel like a lot of the times that can make it so girls kind of get like discouraged, or like, you know, because everything just feels so difficult. So that's definitely something that is an obstacle to us, because we have to make sure that we're still like trying to be like positive and work hard at practices and still get things done even when things are super stressful like that and everything is just on us. So I think that was one of the biggest difficulties at that time before nationals.
We made it a point that we would be happy with what we put out on the mat. We wanted to leave the mat feeling happy and like we put our 100% into it, and we know we did the best we could. So that was really important to reiterate with all the girls, that this isn't about just winning. It's about being happy with your performance, being happy that our team came together. And I think that was the most important thing going into nationals, especially because we did have a bunch more competition. We have like 13 other teams that we competed against, and we don't know what they look like. So going in there, we could just hope that we have a really good routine, but also that we came off the mat happy that we put our 100% into it.
So the first day we flew out, we had to meet at the high school at like 2:30 a.m. and so that we could fly out and get there in the morning. And so then we went to Disneyland or whatever we wanted to do that first day on Thursday. And then the next day, Friday, was our first day of competition, but we didn't compete until about like 8 o'clock at night. So we kind of just had all day to relax, which I think was kind of stressful just because you're just really anxious all day wanting to perform because you're just so excited. So that was kind of hard, I think, for a few girls, but we handled it well and did good that night. And then the next day, for finals, we didn't compete until late that night either. So we did kind of the same thing on Saturday, just kind of hung out at the hotel and practiced and prepared.
Like other girls mentioned, we didn't compete until later at night. The first night we competed at like 8 o'clock. So all day you're kind of just sitting around, and our coach didn't want us like going and doing things because she didn't want us tired. So we were kind of just like at the hotel, just spending time with like girls, getting ready. And we all get ready together, which helps and kind of like, I feel like gets our excitement up. But it was definitely a lot of nerves because like the longer you wait, the more you like think about stuff. It's like, what if something goes wrong? So all those nerves kind of just build up. And then when you're there, of course, there's a lot of nerves. And I think after the first day, like we were all really excited, but also felt like we had a lot of pressure on us to do just as good the second day, if not better. And so then the second day, for me, I was super excited like once I got out on the floor, but definitely before building up, there was a lot of nerves of like, there's a lot of pressure, and if like you can't mess up or we're not gonna win.
After the first day, they performed and they hit really well. And that day we were able to see our competitors because we haven't been able to see them at nationals because in Utah we're used to the same people that we compete against, so we know what their routines look like, know what they're capable of, but at nationals it's a whole new level. We have teams from California, Colorado, all over the US that we haven't been able to see. So after they performed and did their routine, they did really well, and we were able to watch the other ones. We didn't know where exactly we were going to place, but we thought we had a pretty good shot. And then that night, they actually reveal in order the placements 1 through 5, and we were in first after that night. And so we were so pumped and so excited. But at nationals, you don't only have to perform once; you have to perform twice.
Throughout the whole entire routine, like for me, I start out in the corner, and then I go to the very middle for jumps, and then we go back to this corner. It's just like you're literally running around the mat constantly. You probably stay in a place for like a total of 30 seconds and you're already transitioning to do something else. And a lot in the routine also, like I'm a flyer, but I know some other people like will base and then all of a sudden they'll go and be a back spot in a different stunt, or they'll be a performer in the very front rather than stunting in the back. So, and you're constantly changing throughout those roles the entire time. And a lot of it is knowing that everyone else is doing that they're putting in their effort to do their job to the best of their abilities. And that's kind of how it unifies us all together, because we are going everywhere and we're exhausted throughout the routine, but we know that everyone's putting in their effort for their specific job at that moment. I think finding that unity comes a lot with trust, and cheer is all about trust, because in every stunt you do, in every transition you do, you have to trust that everyone knows where they're going, or in a stunt specifically, you have to trust that they're gonna catch your foot, or if you're going into a cradle, that they're actually gonna catch you instead of falling onto your head, like all that stuff. And trust really makes it so that we know what's happening, or that's how we come together mainly.
I think we've always had a pretty good support system, and they always make sure to come and sit together at every competition, especially at nationals. There's some space on the ground that the parents and the like friends can come and sit down, and so they'll come really close to the stage and they'll help us with like the cheer. They'll yell the cheer with us, which is really encouraging. It's really nice to see like when there's people there to support us, just because that's what we do, and so we know that it is kind of hard to go out of your way to support other teams, and so it's just really like refreshing and rewarding to have people there for you.
I was sitting farther back because I have to do music, so I wasn't right up close where they were performing, but I could see from behind, see the big view, and as they hit everything, sorry, I'm gonna get emotional, but yeah, it was such a cool experience to just know that if they could just hit all of their skills just like they did the day before, then it was ours. And so every time, you know, there are a couple things in the routine that I'm like, the scary points, like, okay, this has to hit, you know, and the parts that the girls are worried about. And as that routine went, every time they hit those scary parts, they were just hitting perfect throughout the whole entire routine. And so the very last thing they do is the dance, and they hit their pyramid, which is one of the harder parts at the end of the routine. And while they were doing their dance, I just started crying because I knew that that was ours, nationals was ours, and nobody would be able to take that from us at that point. So yeah, it was a really proud moment for me.
Let's welcome out the Dons from Spanish Fort.
Before, we all wait like kind of outside, and they bring in the divisions one at a time. And so we're all sitting on the mat and everything's like quiet and everyone's watching you. And it's just like the scariest thing, because no matter how confident you are in your performance, things happen and you never know like what's gonna go on. I don't know how well the other teams did. So like we all sit there and we hold each other's hands and we like wait and we look down at the mat, and then they called like third, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this could be us. And then they called second, and as soon as they called second and we knew it wasn't us, then it was, okay, we know we got first. And that was just like trying so hard to contain myself because it was so exciting and we were all so excited and happy, and you could just like feel it throughout the team. And then calling our name and like just all of us jumping up is seriously, it's so fun. Like it's just so exciting, and like I just feel so much love for like those girls that I've been practicing and working so hard with, and like knowing that it's just paid off.
And taking center stage in your chance, Spanish Fort!
It was so hard to like hold in my excitement because personally as a senior, every year we've gone to nationals. Like my sophomore year we had gotten 2nd place, and then my junior year we had gotten 3rd place. And every year we've just hoped and done our best to like try and reach 1st place, but obviously we hadn't. And so actually going into senior year and coming off that mat, I had just felt so good that I was happy with whatever placement we had gotten and that we had come together as a team. So that was my main excitement for it. But hearing our name being called, it was just like a dream come true. So I was very happy.
I think with our team, we don't necessarily get a lot of recognition from the rest of the school. So it was more, for me, a more personal victory versus like, I didn't want to go out and tell everybody that I won nationals. It was something that I more wanted to keep to myself and keep within my team and celebrate with my team. So it wasn't as much like shown off, but it was very much like a celebration between the team and like a mutual, hey, good job. Like, I'm so proud of all of us. So I have been on cheer all 3 years, and most of the girls that are seniors like me have been there all 3 years. The majority of us have been. And so I think more than anything, we've obviously grown closer together, but I've gained so much respect for each of them and respected how far they've came from the beginning. And I don't know, it's there, you can trust them with anything. If you are having a bad day, you can always go talk to one of them and they'll be there for you no matter what's happened in the past or what position you are on the team or how well you've been doing at practice. They're like, I always tell people that they're your automatic friends. Being on the cheer team, you have automatic friends.
I love that we were able to win nationals because I feel like people now are like, oh, what exactly is it that you do when you compete? And they were able to see what we did and like, oh, that's different than what I had envisioned. So I feel like that's good for people to have more of an understanding of what it really is that we do. And then also, cheer is so great because it teaches the girls how to be committed to something. We practiced all the time, and they're constantly having to be to games, constantly having to do other events, and also keeping up on their grades. Like my girls have an overall GPA of a 3.8 for this team, and so it's amazing. They're doing a lot. It teaches them how to be responsible. Also, I'm really big on respect. Respect each other, respect your coaches, respect your teachers. It teaches girls those things. It teaches them how to be accountable. Also, I hold my girls very accountable for things. And honestly, like if I look back on my cheer experience, I was able to just learn and grow so much from my coaches. And I hope that the girls also, when they think back of their time, can remember things that maybe they learned from me or learned from each other. It really is such a life learning experience. It's not just about cheer, it's about so much more than that. And they really develop their character and good things that they can take for the rest of their life, and they can apply things they learned here to situations that happen later on. So it's about a lot more than cheer. And I love being able to be a part of a program where I can help and push girls in a positive direction. So that's why I do it.